In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome to session 4 of The Heights, Surah Al Araf, 206 verses. Today we'll finish. We'll start at verse 174, 175, and we'll go to 206. So it's not too many verses today. As you know, this was a gargantuan chapter. It took me, this is my fourth week of reading through it and trying to understand everything that's going through it. Even in the last video, I think I went 40 minutes, 45 minutes or something. There's nothing I can say. I'm not performing for an audience that I tell you, I'm sorry I went over time. I'm reading the book. This is one of the greatest books ever written or compiled. And there are only a few other books that would come close. So I don't care how long it takes. I have to do it justice and read it properly. Before I move to the final 32 verses, I'd like to do a quick recap. So I'm reading this from Wikipedia, but it's also verified from other sources. Verse number 1 to 10 was people have been welcomed to follow the message sent down to them through Muhammad and cautioned of the outcome of its dismissal. Then it talks a bit about the account of Adam and Eve and how Satan deluded them. Then there are some divine guidelines and how to distinguish from Satan's direction and portray a realistic image of outcomes and results. Then it starts recounting stories from Noah, Hud, Saleh, Lot, Shuaib, and Moses. That's from verse 59 to 171. That's this. If you were going to divide chapter 7 into subsections, from verse 59 to 171, 172, that is stories of previous prophets or messengers or men of God or men who've brought the same message. That is the section where it would fall under. And today we'll start talking about the covenant with the Israelites, some more stories, deviations from the message, and taking everything into account, and what happens if you dismiss the message and what happens if you follow it. So now it's more epilogic. It's less story. It's more of a wrapping up, but big chapter. As you've seen, big chapter. So I'm going to just dive right in and start reading this. The last time I stopped with verse 174, which said, "Thus do we explain the ayat in detail so that they may turn unto the truth." And right after that, it goes, "And recite, O Muhammad, to them the story of him to whom we gave our ayat, but he threw them away, so Satan followed him up, and he became of those who went astray." Many of us may fall under that trap, but hopefully we don't. "And had we willed, we would surely have elevated him therewith, but he clung to the earth and followed his own vain desire." Wait, we would surely have elevated him therewith. Now, elevated here could mean two things. One means to raise him from the earth and just end him, or bring him out of the darkness. Let's see how it means. So, but he clung to the earth and followed his own vain desire. So I think it means the second one. So his parable is the parable of a dog. If you drive him away, he lolls his tongue out, or if you leave him alone, he still lolls his tongue out. Such is the parable of the people who reject our ayat. So relate the stories, perhaps they may reflect. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's interesting. So the comparison here is to a dog. The comparison of somebody who has rejected the verses of the Quran is being compared to a dog lolling its tongue out. So if you drive him away, he's lolling his tongue out, or if you leave him alone, he's lolling his tongue out. That's very interesting. So the parallel between driving and leaving is zero, or no, sorry, it's equal. Once you've gone astray, it doesn't matter whether you led more astray or left all alone. You are in that state of mind. Okay, I understand. That was interesting. That's a metaphorical. Evil is the parable of the people who rejected our ayat and used to wrong their own selves. Yep, we know that. That's the summary of all religious books. Whomsoever God guides, he is the guided one, and whomsoever he sends astray, then those they are the losers. Now, we've been going through this for a while now, where I always talk about this verse. If God wills, God will guide you. If God doesn't will, God will not guide you and lead you astray. Where does accountability fall in that regard? If God is going to guide you, can you not say at the day of judgment, hey, you were supposed to guide me, you led me astray? I think last time as well, and this time, it's more of a temporal argument, firstly, because temporally speaking, God can give you options which are in the future, which you can utilize once you get to them. But for God, who lives outside of time, God, who is outside of time, they're all existing at the same time. But for us, we have to pass through time to get to them. One could make that argument. The other argument I think I remember making was the argument of conscience, the presence of God within us, which guides us right and wrong, but we end up accepting and rejecting it accordingly. But whenever these verses come that we will lead you astray and we will lead you on the path, I'm troubled, because then accountability comes into the center, and I wonder where it lies. If my Lord, the creator of the entire universe, says that I choose this and I choose that, then where's my responsibility? I think the 2 points that I've mentioned, the temporal one and the conscience one, are some arguments one can make for it, but there may be other points. There may be stronger points. And if anyone has a point, do let me know. Because I think a third point could be what we've mentioned in this chapter, but also other chapters, of the slippery slope. So you commit one sin or one evil deed. Let's say, as a Muslim, you drink alcohol. You drink one glass or one shot. You drink one shot, one pint. At night, you might feel bad. Sorry, in the morning, you'll have a hangover. Once that wears down, you might feel bad. I shouldn't have drunk last night. Oh, what have I done? I'm not going to drink again. It's not just Muslims. There are thousands of people who are not of the faith who make this decision, but they do it for their own health, for their own sanity, for their own emotional balance tied to Islam. Why do you think Islam prohibits it? For your emotional health, for your mental sanity, for your physical health, and because it's bad for you, and because it's a order from God. But if you don't believe in God, you still believe in these things about health and fitness. That thing inside you which is causing the guilt, that is conscience. That is either religion, or it is worry about health, or it is worry about losing self-control. And that is conscience. Then it is free will. You can choose to follow your conscience, adhere to it, listen to it, agree with it, align with it, or you could ignore it yourself. It's okay, I'll be fine tomorrow, and then I'll go for another drink. It's okay, I'll be fine next week, and then I'll have 2 drinks. Once you start doing that, you start moving onto a slippery slope. And on a slippery slope, you start slipping till a point of time where you are being led astray. So it's not a whole binary. You're either on the path or you're not on the path, and I am the Lord and I shall decide. It is small, single steps. That is my conclusion. One is the conscience argument, second is the temporal argument, and third is it's not a clear binary, it is step by step. Okay. I'm satisfied with my conclusion so far, but feel free to point holes in it. And surely we have created many of the jinn in mankind for hell. They have hearts wherewith they understand not, and they have eyes wherewith they see not, and they have ears wherewith they hear not the truth. They are like cattle, nay, even more astray, those. They are the heedless ones. So again, same story. We have created many of the jinn and mankind for hell. Does that mean when they were being created, they were being endowed with qualities that would invariably lead them to hell? One can make that argument if that created person or jinn existed in a vacuum, existed in a zone where they're not open to any other teachings of God. Then one can make that argument. But human beings aren't like that. Now we know that there is God. Now we know that there are religions. Now we know that this is the universe. We are exposed to constant knowledge. So I don't think this is also the non-binary. So you have created them that because God is creating them where time doesn't exist. So God knows this person is going to hell. But for the person who's going to pass through time, he's exposed or she's exposed to a lot of guidance from a lot of actions, from a lot of sources. The inner conscience can tell us, and tell her, this is not the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. That's what the book is saying. It can tell her. She can choose to listen to it. If she doesn't, and it becomes a slippery slope, then she's led astray. And all the most beautiful names belong to God, so call upon him by them and leave the company of those who belie or deny or utter impious speech against his names. They will be required for what they used to do. So in Islam, it says in the bottom, in the footnote, God has 100 minus 1 names, which means 99. Narrated by Abu Huraira, God has 99 names, 100 minus 1, and whoever believes in their meanings and acts accordingly will enter paradise. And God is witr, which means 1, and loves the witr, which means 1. This is from Sahih al-Bukhari 8/6410. Now, God has 99 names. In Pakistan, but also in other countries, we used to memorize them. They had a wonderful tune in which they used to recite those names, particularly in Ramadan. So each name means something. Each name defines an attribute of God. That isn't to say that all of God's attributes are summarized in those names. There may be more attributes, or there may be multiple attributes contained in one name. And so I'm not saying God only has 99 attributes. What I am saying is that those 99 names define attributes of God, and they range from truth, law, merciful, forgiving, visible, invisible, friend. There's so many. And when a Muslim is named after one of those names, some people take the name as it is, others you add the word Abdul, which means man of. So my grandfather, my father's father, was called Abdul Fattah. Fattah means conquest or conquering or victory. Abdul Fattah, man of or servant of, he who conquers or he who wins. His younger brother was Abdul Wadud, and his younger brother, who's still alive, is Abdul Quddus. So these are names of God, and that's how we tie to them. It's a very common practice to be named after God, God's attributes, and many people take the name as it is. Some add the Abdul, and many people add the Abdul. So it's both. It's a beautiful thing. And of those whom we have created, there is a community who guides others with the truth and establishes justice therewith. Those who reject our ayat we shall gradually seize them with punishment in ways they perceive not, we know. And I respite them, certainly my plan is strong. Ooh, the way God says it is just, even in Arabic, it's so powerful. Do they not reflect? There is no madness in their companion, Muhammad. He is but a plain warner. Now it's back to Muhammad's story. Do they not look in the dominion of the heavens and the earth and all things that God has created, and that it may be that the end of their lives is near? And what message after this will they then believe? Interesting. And what message will they then believe? I'd love to ask God about science. I'd love to ask God, because there are more and more people every day who end up swearing by science. Oh, it's scientific fact, it's true, until it's disproven or until something new comes along. Um, and my parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and everyone, they're all doctors, so medicine is heavily scientific, but a lot of them are Muslims and a lot of them are religious. So it's interesting to hear them speak when they reach medical conclusions and they say, well, we already knew that through the Quran. Um, I don't remember them ever saying, well, this medical marvel has disproved what the Quran had said. I haven't heard that, but that is something we can unpack later. Whomsoever God sends astray, none can guide him, and he lets them wander blindly in their transgressions. Again, they weren't born this way. That's my argument. It's a slippery slope. They ask you about the hour, the day of resurrection. When will when will be its appointed time? Say, the knowledge thereof is with my Lord alone. None can reveal its time but he. Heavy is its burden through the heavens and the earth. It shall not come upon you except all of a sudden. Now that is scary. We've all seen the movie. If you haven't, please watch it. Don't Look Up. Directed by Adam McKay, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Meryl Streep, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of big actors in it, and it's a fantastically directed film. I love Adam McKay. And it talks about a meteor coming to the earth, and you have 6 months or 3 months to prepare to leave, and still very few people end up leaving. What it says here, but that's a movie. It could happen. What it's saying here, that it will happen all of a sudden. That's the scary part. Uncertainty isn't scary when you're open to it. But when it happens all of a sudden, you're not open to it. The only way you can be prepared for it is by being prepared, because chance favors the prepared mind. They ask you as if you have a good knowledge of it. Say, the knowledge thereof is with God alone, but most of mankind knows not. In the footnote, it says, narrated by Abdullah, God's messenger said, the keys of the unseen are 5. Verily, God, with him alone is the knowledge of the hour. He sends down the rain and knows that which is in the wombs. True. No person knows what he will earn tomorrow, and no person knows in what land he will die. Verily, God is all knower, all aware. Sahih al-Bukhari 64627. It's so interesting, the change in scale. Verily, with him, he sends down the rain and knows that which is in the wombs. That is so interesting. Sends down the rain and that which is in the wombs. I would be inclined to think there is some sort of a metaphysical connection here. Like, a raindrop is a living life, a sperm drop is a living life. There may be something here, but I'm not knowledgeable enough or even smart enough yet to uncover that. But that's beautiful. The scale sends down the rains and knows what's in the wombs. You're like, whoa, look at the scale, look at the scope. Say, O Muhammad, I possess no power over benefit or harm to myself, except as God wills. If I had the knowledge of the ghaib, which means the unseen, I should have secured for myself an abundance of wealth. No evil should have touched me. I am but a warner and a bringer of glad tidings unto people who believe. That's true. If you knew when the day of judgment is coming, how it's coming. Let's say I tell you the day of judgment is going to be a heavy flood, a rainfall. What would you do? You'd build an ark. You'd go inside a submarine, or you'd build the biggest ship you can, or you'd move to the moon or Mars. You'd do that. If I told you it's fire, you would invest in asbestos, you would go fireproofing, you'd go all those things. That's what Muhammad, peace be upon him, is saying. If he knew, he would have acquired all this wealth and tried to secure himself, but he didn't. It is he who has created you from a single person, which is Adam, and then he has created from him his wife, Eve, in order that he might enjoy the pleasure of living with her. When he, and by he means a polytheist from Adam's offspring, as stated by Ibn Kathir in his tafsir, had sexual relation with her, the polytheist's wife, she became pregnant and she carried it about lightly. Then when it became heavy, they both invoked God, their Lord, saying, if you give us a sali, which means good in every aspect child, we shall indeed be among the grateful. But when he gave them, the polytheist and his wife, a sali, good in every aspect child, they ascribed partners to God, in that which he has given to them. High is God, exalted above all that they ascribe as partners to him. Oof. Why make a covenant with the Lord Almighty and then break it? Do you not know who you're dealing with? That would be my question to this polytheistic couple. Do you not know who you're dealing with? The entity who loves me, who cares for me and protects me and guides me through all of life, the entity that is created. Every single thing that exists, has existed, and will exist. You make a covenant with that, and then you break it. Do they attribute as partners to God those who created nothing, but they themselves are created? Exactly. No help can they give them, nor can they help themselves. And if you call them to guidance, they follow you not. It is the same for you, whether you call them or you keep silent. Verily, those whom you call upon besides God are slaves like you. So call upon them and let them answer you if you are truthful. Have they feet wherewith they walk, or have they hands wherewith they hold, or have they eyes wherewith they see, or have they ears wherewith they hear? Say, O Muhammad, call your so-called partners of God, and then plot against me and give me no respite. Wow. So it's a challenge. Verily, my wali, this is the name of God, protector, supporter, and helper, is God who has revealed the book, the Quran. And he protects, supports, and helps the righteous. And those whom you call upon besides him cannot help you, nor can they help themselves. Now, Abraham's story is famous about leaving the axe on the shoulder of the tallest divine idol, deity, sorry. There are countless stories about this, about the worshipping the inanimate and worshipping the invisible or the unseen. And if you call them to guidance, they hear not, and you will see them looking at you, yet they see not. Ooh, that's deep. So hear and see are not physical, biological senses here. They're talking about comprehension. They'll see you. You will see them looking at you. They'll look at you, but they won't see you. Remember in Avatar, it says, I see you, but I see into you. Remember, all of this is tied. There is a philosophy that has been running throughout human history, which now with modernization we tend to ignore, with capitalism as well, although I'm a devout capitalist. But we ignore this philosophy, but it exists in all these books and all these cultures. I see you, I see into you, is very different from I look at you. Show forgiveness, enjoin what is good, and turn away from the foolish, which means don't punish them. Turn away from them. And if an evil whisper comes to you from Satan, then seek refuge with God. Verily, he is God. He is all hearer, all knower. Verily, those who are al-muttaqun, which means the pious, when an evil thought comes to them from Satan, they remember God. And indeed, they then see aright. But as for their brothers, the devils, they, i.e., the devils, plunged them deeper into error, and they never stopped short. And if you do not bring them a miracle according to their pagans' proposal, they say, why have you not brought it? Say, I but follow what is revealed to me from my Lord. This, the Quran, is nothing but evidences from your Lord, and a guidance and a mercy for a people who believe. Now, I haven't found miracles to be a deal breaker. I've said this before. Miracle or not, it's hard to convince me that God doesn't exist. I can't convince you that God does. My argument would be look at everything. There are 8 billion people in the world. Each individual has a distinct path. Each individual. No 2 individuals are the same. No 2 individuals have the same heart beating in them, the same soul. No, it doesn't exist. Try creating a system. I work on systems, political network systems, with one entity and follow its movement. This is a tank, or this is a government, or this is a political white paper. This is its path. I can track it. Try 2 entities. Try 3. Try 5. Try 10. Try 100. A computer can track 100 entities. Try 1,000. Try 10,000. Try 100,000. Try 1,000,000. Supercomputers may be able to track 1,000,000. Try 10 million. Try 100 million. Try 1,000,000,000. Try 1,000,000,000 different data points of skill, of scope, of scale. Try 1,000,000,000. Try 8 billion. And then realize that human beings, these 8 billion, populate less than 5% of the entire world. I think I'm getting that right. The urbanized population, sorry. But still less than 20% of the entire world. There's flora, there's fauna, there's water, there's air, there's fire, there's birds that fly, there's fish that swims, there are clouds, there's dust particles, there's bacteria, there's viruses, and you start looking at the whole ecosystem just contained in this one planet. One planet. And you look outside of that one planet and you see a moon, a whole different entity. You see Mars and you see the sun and you see the whole solar system. Each asteroid in the solar system is specific and different. Saturn's moons, Jupiter's moons, each moon is different. Some may have some living thing living on them, which we have not discovered yet. That is just one solar system with this sun. Go to Proxima Centauri. Go to that other big, beautiful star that they found. Go to all the stars in our galaxy and all their solar systems and all the planets and satellites in that solar system. And in each planet, go to the ecosystem and the flora and the fauna and every living thing there. Then go outside of the Milky Way and go to all the other galaxies, which we just look at telescopes and we are projecting that it's that big. Let's assume that we believe in the science, that it is that big. And you're telling me that all of this is by chance. All of this. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that all of this is by chance. All of this. 4 forces: weak, strong, electromagnetism, and gravity. 4 forces governing the entire universe. And now you talk about multiverses and dimensional travel and astral travel, and you don't believe that there is a creator. It's funny to me. It's funny that you ascribe more value to chance than the chance of a creator being there. It's funny to me. Final 3 verses. So when the Quran is recited, listen to it and be silent that you may receive mercy. Which means during the compulsory congregational prayers, when the imam of a mosque is leading the prayer, and also when he is delivering the Friday prayer. Like, listen to the imam. And remember your Lord within yourself, humbly and with fear and without loudness in words, in the mornings and in the afternoons, and be not of those who are neglectful. Surely those who are with your Lord, angels, are never too proud to perform acts of worship to him, but they glorify his praise and prostrate themselves before him. I am so happy I finished it. I am so happy because this was the longest chapter that I had to read. And in the Quran, it's the 3rd longest, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm really glad. It took me 2 weeks, as you know, 4 weeks, as you know, going line by line, chapter by chapter. But I finished it, Surah Al-Araf. Next week, it's going to be Surah Jinn. We're going to talk about the entity which we don't see, the entity which is made of fire, and we are made of clay and earth, the Jinn. We will talk about them next week. So have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful Friday.